Having said that, she does stand out because we got to know her so much better than the other crew members. What did you find her like?
Peter, I would like to say a word here about courage, and I think that that word applies to Christa McAuliffe as equally as it does to the rest of the crew, and indeed to all of the people who work with NASA, not only just the astronauts, but the people who put this machine together all the time. I have a copy of Christa McAuliffe's application. This is the application that she filled out to be the teacher in space. And I just want to share a few thoughts from it with you, because I think it points out not only why she was selected in what was meant to have been an exciting educational kind of expedition, but because she did obviously have a sense that there was danger. She talks about the fact that she's 37 years old, of course, and she talks about the fact that she remembered the excitement when the first satellites were launched. She was obviously just a little girl, probably in about grammar school when Sputnik first went up, and she was very caught up in the wonder of that. And she says that when Sally Ride took her first flight, she was absolutely jealous because she wanted to train as an astronaut and she couldn't do that. She couldn't start over. And when Sally and other women started to go, she said, I could see an ever-increasing list of opportunities. And then she wrote, and this is a quote from Christa McAuliffe's application to NASA, I cannot join the space program and restart my life as an astronaut, but this opportunity to connect my abilities as an educator with my interest in history and space is a unique opportunity to fulfill my early fantasies. I watch the space age being born, and I would like to participate. Very poignant, of course, but also it shows you a lot of courage. She understood, obviously, what was going on, and she wanted to be part of it. And I come back to what I said earlier. I think it is that kind of thing that has developed this country from the beginning. She was not going up there for PR. She was not going up there to become famous. She was not going up there to further her own career. She was going up there because she felt it was an important part of our lives on Earth and that you have to explore everything.
Lynn, I was watching you earlier thinking and changing your mind while on the air, so I'll do the same if you don't mind. I realize I'm treading on rather dangerous ground, delicate ground. But it seems to me that women in space have drawn more attention to the challenge of individuals in space than the original astronauts. Is that a fair comment, do you think? From a reporter's point of view? have galvanized our interest in space more so than just another man might have. And we've now had how many women in space?
All 7, all 8, whatever it is, of the original women selected have flown, some of them twice. So yes, I think it has galvanized our attention, but I also think the very fact that they are private citizens, regular people, not military test pilots, is what's made the difference. And there are men who have flown who have galvanized our attention quite the same way. I think that all those original arguments about why women could not fly have obviously been proven wrong. The women have done wonderfully in space, and it simply hasn't made a difference. Some of them have done better than the men. Some of them have not done as well as the men, but gender apparently has zero to do with it. So sure, it's focused our attention on it, but I think, thank goodness, that we are beyond the point where someone will say the danger is greater to a woman than it is to a man. The danger is no greater to either one. It's an equal danger that they are all sharing, and I think that our attention being focused on Christa McAuliffe is the same thing. She was kind of the star of the mission. The astronauts have admitted this will always be known as the teacher mission, and that was okay with them. It's not that we think Christa McAuliffe is any more special than any one of those other individuals. It's just that perhaps we got to know her a little bit better.
Tell me about somebody else. Tell me more about Dick Scobie, the commander of the flight. You knew him as well.
Dick Scobie, a very professional pilot. I actually met Dick for the first time when I was doing a story about Sally Ride's first flight. And Dick Scobie she was going out in a T-38, a practice flight, one of those jet trainers with him. And Dick was wonderful because we were obviously taking pictures of Sally, and that was Sally's month or week or year, depending on how you look at it. And I went up to him and I explained what we were trying to do, and he just very graciously said, take the pictures of her. I don't want publicity. This is not what I'm here for. And a pilot's pilot, the folks at NASA, the other astronauts, were extremely fond of him, a really wonderful person. Just some personal thoughts about some of the others. Judy Resnick, whom I know quite well. Judy worked with us at ABC during one of the missions. She was, as you have mentioned, an expert on the arm. And Judy was terrific. Again, Judy trained as an electrical engineer. All she wanted to do was go in space, fly on the shuttle, and do her thing in space. And we kind of dragged her in front of a camera and asked her to help us explain things, and she was just marvelous. I mean, she took the little model of the arm, the robot arm at which she was so expert, and she showed us exactly what it would be doing and how it was going to work, and I think helped millions of Americans understand it in a way that they might not have before. Ron McNair I knew pretty well. Ron was one of the first astronauts I ever interviewed about 6 years ago down there. And Ron was one of the examples of the new breed of astronaut that came in the class of, I believe it was 1978. They were no longer the jet pilots, the fighter pilots, the ones who were military all the way. Ron, of course, one of the first black people hired to fly as an astronaut by NASA. He was not the first of the black astronauts to go in space, but he was there, and he thought it was terribly important for blacks to be part of the space program. Also a jazz musician, as I recall. I think it was the saxophone that he used to play. A very, very special group of people.
What about Mike Smith, the co-pilot?
I didn't know Mike Smith, and I didn't know Ellison Onizuka, known as El. But he, of course, was Hawaiian, as you've pointed out, and on his last mission, which was a classified mission, he made sure that all the folks down in Mission Control had a bunch of macadamia nuts to chew on and some Hawaiian coffee. These people really take care of each other. That's a very silly little gesture that I recall, but it is true that the astronaut corps is a very close group. They don't all love each other. Some of them actually dislike each other, but it doesn't matter because they're all doing the same thing, and they are terribly dependent on one another, because they all know that if somebody else does something, it could come back and affect them.
Forgive me for interrupting. On Capitol Hill, the Speaker of the House